We welcome you back to Fresh Outlook. Why does Alibaba's IPO matter so much? Well, here's a few numbers. Alibaba's initial public offering could raise more than $16 billion more than Facebook did when it went public, yet few Americans have even heard of the Chinese company. So what happens when Alibaba comes to the U.S.? Let's have a look and talk it out.
Alibaba is an unlikely name for a Chinese consumer behemoth. But the internet giant has investors interested and analysts excited. The e-shopping site has created quite a splash in the U.S. stock market as it files probably the biggest tech IPO.
This is a company that so many investment managers are going to look at. Indexes are going to put them in. I expect the S&P 500 won't ignore this. It finally added Facebook. I'm sure that Alibaba will be a candidate too.
Alibaba Group Holding Ltd. powers 80% of all online commerce. It is expected to raise more than $15 billion. It could top the $16 billion pulled in by Facebook Inc. when it listed in 2012. The bulk of the proceeds will go to Yahoo Inc., which bought a 40% stake in Alibaba in 2005. While the brand is less well known in the U.S., the Chinese company's listing has stirred the most excitement in Silicon Valley and Wall Street since Facebook's record IPO.
And incidentally, the IPO could value Alibaba at as much as $75 billion. Now, to talk more about Alibaba coming to America, we are now joined by Josh Green, CEO of Panjiva, and Dr. Jose Lopez, professor from Seton Hall University. And of course, Dee Dee's going to stick around as well. All right, we are pretty exciting because on May 6th, they actually did the formal proceedings to go and make this an IPO here in the United States. Now, what does this mean for Alibaba on Wall Street, and what does it mean for the U.S. economy? And we'll start with you, Josh, since you're a newcomer here on Fresh Outlook. So we welcome you. So let's talk about this. What does this mean for the U.S. economy?
Well, I think it's certainly an indication that New York and the U.S. still a place to come and make your dreams come true. But it's going to have a bigger impact on the financial community than it is on the U.S. economy as a whole. Because while Alibaba is coming to the United States to go public, there's no evidence that they're coming to the United States in terms of their core business.
Okay, and we're going to talk about Yahoo and whether we should buy in just a little bit. But Dee Dee, your thoughts about this? I know you've. What are your thoughts about Alibaba coming to America?
Well, for one, what's with the name? I don't get that. I mean, why is a Chinese company calling it Alibaba? Not silly, but still, maybe it's an omen of what to come. For one, it's a Chinese business. Hello. I'm sorry, I don't trust their bottom line. I don't trust what they're saying. I mean, the Chinese have never been that great to us, and frankly, it's so big and so ominous. I think we need to tread very lightly here. I don't trust it. I mean, if this is a group of people, they censor their own people on the internet. I'm sorry, but this seems a little bit too good to be true and too big.
Well, for Jack Ma, it certainly is too good to be true. And I just want to tell the backstory of this because I think it is a remarkable story. 1999, he's in his house trying to put this all together. He was an English school teacher and really had the vision to bring this forward. But Josh, you were saying?
Well, I was going to say that I think Dee Dee makes an important point here, which is a bet on Alibaba is very much a bet on China. Mm-hmm. If you look at China, the economy is in the process of transitioning from an economy that's focused on making stuff to an economy that's focused on buying
cheap,
stuff.
crummy things in Walmart, by the way, but go ahead.
But there is...
Costs are low, profits are high.
There is no company that is better positioned than Alibaba to benefit as China makes this transition. But the question is, how effective will the Chinese authorities be in managing that transition?
Exactly.
If they're very effective, Alibaba's going to do well. If they're not so effective, Alibaba's going to struggle.
Now we want to talk about just how they're going about this e-commerce site. And Dr. Lopez, just explain to us a little bit about the mechanics of all this.
Well, what Alibaba does and was a genius in putting this together is they hook businesses to businesses. So they have hundreds of businesses that they sell the products, and they made it very easy for people from all over the world to buy them, since a lot of the stuff is made in China. So that they're connectors basically, and that's their core business, what they do. But they also have stuff in cloud computation. They sell space there, and if you look at what they do, they're bigger market-wise and moving of merchandise than eBay and Amazon combined.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
And I was also reading that 20% of their sales are done by iPhones and devices like that, so by phones. I thought that was pretty interesting as well. Should U.S. investors be investing in something like Alibaba right now? What would be your say there, Josh?
Well, it's a great question, and actually a question that I was asked a couple days ago by one of my favorite Main Street investors, my mom.
Okay, great.
She asked.
Good Mother's Day question.
Right? She said, should I be buying Alibaba stock, which was proof to me that Alibaba really has broken through in terms of being something that's talked about across the country. Because my mom knows about a lot of things, the Chinese economy and B2B commerce really aren't at the top of the list. But my answer was no. And I think, generally speaking, I think it's good to invest in things that you know and understand. And though Alibaba is coming to the United States to go public, as we discussed, it's very much a bet on the Chinese economy. So if you really...
And if you can trust them. I mean, what are they going to really do? We don't know that.
And to be fair, they do have a trust problem, right? I mean, the U.S. government put them on a list of notorious markets for trading in counterfeit goods. Jack Ma transferred a key asset to a company that he controlled, burning investors before. So this is a company that does have a track record of having trust issues.
Well, Josh, that brings up another point. Who regulates them, the U.S. or the Chinese?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think the key authority here is the Chinese. But what's interesting, if you look at Alibaba, is they are trying to facilitate global commerce, and they are trying to play globally. And the truth is, once you go across borders, there isn't one controlling entity that really has the authority to regulate things. So that puts trust at the heart of the issue, right? Is this a company that's going to earn the trust of consumers, businesses, and so far they don't have a great track record.
Well, I do want to talk about trust, because let's just say Alibaba is very, very successful. What would that mean for business moving forward with the Chinese and U.S.?
And it can't be good for us because they're in it for them, and if they hold all the cards, I think this is just a Trojan horse, going and behind the gate, and then they can say, oh, sorry, folks, sorry, it's just for us. So, we don't know. I would not invest a penny in Alibaba. Forget it.
What
Invest
about
American?
But we are seeing a lot of folks going and investing in SoftBank of Japan because they own about 30% of Alibaba, and of course Yahoo, 22%. A lot of folks are talking about investments like your mom. Do you invest in something like Yahoo? Do you go get your mom some Yahoo stocks for Mother's Day?
Well, up until now, Yahoo has actually been a backdoor for investing in Alibaba. Now, investors are going to have the opportunity to invest directly in Alibaba, and we'll see what the verdict is. But I think it's important to remember, anytime you have a company with this much fanfare around it, there's the short-term verdict, what happens in the days around the IPO, but also over the long term. And that's much more rooted in the fundamentals of the business and in the fundamentals of the Chinese economy.
And Dr. Lopez, you were talking about this was sort of a genius move of putting this together and being the connectors. Is there anything else we can compare this to?
I guess eBay would be the closest thing, that I'm aware of, but where it's individual. And Alibaba's kind of even moving into that market where they're connecting individuals to individuals at this point.
Sure, one great statistic on this, 60% of all packages that go through the Chinese Postal Service are tied to Alibaba's business.
Yes, that's a great statistic.
It's amazing, but they are, if you look at their B2B business, that's actually the part of the business that we compete with. At Panjiva, and it is the one piece of their business that really has had an international focus. And frankly, they've struggled there.
Well, just one other question for you, Josh, because we're getting close to our time. But in terms of bringing it to the New York Stock Exchange instead of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, why did they do that?
Hong Kong wouldn't let them.
Oh, okay.
They kicked them out.
Yeah, I think we're being stupid. We're getting played here. Talk about being players. They are playing us.
Well, I wanted to ask just that question. Why did the Hong Kong Stock Exchange kick them out?
Well, Alibaba wanted to preserve their partnership structure, which would ensure that insiders have an outsized level of control over the company. Now, this is something, to be fair, that American companies like Facebook and Google have done. Right. But Alibaba does have a track record of making some decisions that have left investors in the dust.
Of course that's what they're going to do.
Well,
it's their track record. Why are they going to change?
Well, let's just talk very quickly about Yahoo also. What does the IPO mean for Yahoo? Could the company make a resurgence here in the U.S.? In terms
They may want to. After they do with Alibaba, it may change very quickly.
I'm sure they want to. I mean, what's interesting is that the Yahoo stock has really been reflecting people's confidence or lack thereof in Alibaba. Now Yahoo's going to have to sink or swim on its own merits. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Predictions. We'll just do quick predictions, and then we're going to have to go to a short break. Dee
I
Dee?
think they're going to try to screw over Americans, and we're going to find out. Hopefully, it won't be too late.
Well, we're a competitor against Alibaba, so we're betting against them in a big way.
Okay, so your mother shouldn't have been asking about that stock.
Well, that
then.
was the second reason why I told her not
Yeah,
to buy
Josh
it.
and I are betting against Alibaba, for sure.
Dr. Lopez, just in terms of the tech issues.
I think that they have the technology, they have the market, they're massive. I mean, it's their game to lose. They're the, if this is the Kentucky Derby, they're in front right now. So I mean, I would bet in their favor.
And to be fair, anybody who has underestimated Jack Ma has been proven wrong again and again.
Yes.
Well, it's just his story is, it doesn't matter whether you're betting for or against Alibaba, Jack Ma's story is one of the most remarkable that I've ever heard. So a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here, Josh. Well, from commerce to the environment, we're going to switch things up here on Fresh Outlook. When we come back, we'll talk about climate change and what it means to the things that we eat. We'll be right back.